Welcome to part two. We're joined by Anthony, a London kid, chemist, living in Mexico. How are you doing, Anthony?
I'm good, Mr. Porky. Thanks for having me back for part two. Bear with me. I can't see where I'm at with you. Here we go. Right. I tell you what I'm about to send you, which reminds me of boxing. Have you ever seen a cartoon by a guy called Steve Cutts? And
Yeah,
the cartoon's called Man, right? And um it's got what is it, 60? I'm looking at it now. It's got 68 million views on it, right? And right at the end of it, you see that the carnage that has been created. You see this man sitting amongst all this rubble on a throne, and then these aliens come and then just bosh him on the head, right? What's happened in boxing reminds me of that cartoon where the man are all the promoters, the Eddie Hills, the Bricktops, the Oscar De La Hoyas, the Bob Arums, who've created all this shit show, and they're literally lording over, right, an absolute pile of steaming doo-doo. But it suits them because it's made them money. And the alien character, as we all know now, in my opinion, is Turkey, who's come in and just boshed them on the head and said, you know what, this is all a load of bullshit, right? Where Turkey goes from here with that is a very interesting question because they've got a number of avenues and a number of plays to make, and it's going to be fascinating to watch and see where they go, right? Will they be successful? Of all the people who've tried to take over boxing, I think they've shown the strongest hand to date. Will they be successful? Don't know, right? But it's a very, very, very interesting development. Very interesting development. And all I do hope is it one strengthens the product, right? And number two, we don't have too much of what I call the Dana White influence. Because one of the things about Dana White, you could say that he's the way he's built the UFC and he's promoted and everything else is all brilliant. But in the end, Dana White has got fighters who are not boxers coming over to boxing, not because they love it, but because they want to make life-changing money, you know, while they're, basically they exchange their health for the money, isn't it? They get knocked about, right? But they want to make
yeah.
the big money and they cannot do it. Case in point, Francis Ngannou, you know, and he has made, whether anyone likes it or not, he's exposed the fact that Dana White has too much power. And in my view, with this boxing thing, I don't think Dana White gets that amount of power. I think, both him and Turkey have got egos, and I think they're smart enough to work out how far they can go. So what I'd see is that boxers are going to make a lot less than they are now, but it's not going to be, you know, the pittance where the UFC has got them begging for fights. So it's very, very, very interesting, Porky. And for somebody like you who's been saying it for a very long time, the day has come, isn't it? Really?
The day of reckoning, right?
Yes.
You've
That's what
spoke
that's
very, you've spoke very elegantly. And I'm going to give you my take on it now, right?
yeah,
Looking at it from the outside, looking at it as not a hater of these people because promoters are a different breed. They're dealing in cattle.
right.
Like farmers. Nobody likes farmers, do they? A
No,
farmer's nice to the cows, the sheep, and the pigs. They feed them, they hose them down. You know what I mean? They pat them on back, they get vet bills, and then they send them out to meat market to slaughter. Now,
correct.
promoters are just like that. Now, my argument with this is, well, it ain't really an argument, it's just a point. I don't think that they'll be able to take over boxing. What I
Yep, I'd
think
agree with
will
that.
happen is you'll get people that'll defect, people who have fell out with certain promoters, and they'll run to them. And I think what will happen is your Dana Whites and your Turkeys, their heads will get that done in by dealing with dimwit boxers, dimwit managers, and dimwit consultants, lawyers, hangers on, and general shithousery. They'll get fed up of it, and I think that eventually they'll say, "What are we doing here?" They won't be able to control it because If you go online, there's 1,912 professional MMA guys in the
Right.
world, right? Dana White's got 652. So he hasn't even got control of all of the cage fighters, has he really? And out of
No.
them 652, how many are household names? There's about 20, isn't there? 25, 24. That's
Correct.
in America. Not all 652 are superstars. Now that's like in England, right? Yeah. We've got about 25, 30 people that are regularly on TalkSport, IFL, that on all these other liquor channels. But what about the other 23,000? There's 23,815 professional boxers. They're not all going to sign for Turkey and Dana, are they?
No.
Right. So how many are they going to get? They won't be able to control all that. Dana White's pulled all his hair out dealing with 652 people. But it runs itself now with UFC. They all fight each other and they all know what they're getting. And if they don't like it, piss off. That's the
Correct.
rule. He don't work with other promoters. And I don't think he's going to want to work with other promoters in boxing because they want to make stand control of it. And I think you'll
Correct.
get people like Eddie Hills, Oscar De La Hoya, Todd LaBeouf at top rank because Bob Arum's decrepit and senile.
Yeah, he's 93, isn't he? So
Yeah,
he's
he's 94 actually now. So
94. So
you'll
yeah,
get you'll get
he's gone.
yeah, so I don't think they're gonna control it like they think they are. They've made a big splash and people
Yeah.
have made a few quid, but now they've put the foot down, the money isn't there. And when I was looking at some of them prices that they got for that last show, I'm thinking, hang on a minute. I thought these were supposed to be throwing money about. They're
Yeah.
not. And I don't think that they'll be able to take it over like they say they are. And a boxing league, are you having a laugh? Look, they tried all that with Super Six and that thing Callum did that Callum Smith won. They tried
Right.
all that with that. Look at the problems. The Super Six took 2 years to do. 2 year, 2 month it took to get Frotch and Ward in final. It started October uh, 09 and it finished December 11, 26 month. And that were only six guys and they're on about having a league. Do me a favour. What about pullouts and shithousery and all that and drug testing? They won't know what they're letting themselves in for. Dana White's got nowhere as it is. And that Turkey's already had run around with, what did they call it? The greatest ever show. Well, look what happened to that. Look, well,
Mm.
they had to ship in Martin McCauley, 22 and a half stone. Do you know what I mean? And there were other fights on the show that got cancelled, weren't there?
Yeah.
Stevenson's opponent pulled out. So they better get ready if they think that's what they're going to do. And if they think they're going to start paying people money less than what Matchroom and Queensbury and Top Rank and Golden Boy are paying, the top four promotional outfits out there, they've got another thing coming. I think they've got a lot on the plate to take on. I'm not saying this because I'm a know-all, right? But when I first started, I always revert back to this because I've been in the thick of it. I remember sitting in the office, computer there, all pictures you're surrounded by in his office. David A, Clinton Woods and Roy Jones, all these pictures with Dennis. There's pictures of him with Simon Cowell, all these
Right.
lickers that want to get around the boxing scene. And I'm thinking, oh, this is brilliant, this. But when you get down to the nitty gritty and you're dealing with managers and matchmakers on a daily basis and trainers coming in saying, oh, he's not turned in for training today or blah de blah. Once you get down to the nitty gritty of it, it's a fractured sport. And Dana White's got control of that sport, and has he? I think he'll have it a lot harder trying to control boxing because after 1 month, I was like, oh my God. Not only is it addictive, but you're absolutely worn out with the constant lies and fucking dishonesty on a daily basis and everybody trying to shaft each other.
Yeah.
Absolutely shaft each other. So, no,
But
I think they're going to have the work cut out, mate.
I agree with you, Porky. Let me go back to the very good point you made about Dana White. The UFC isn't all, love and roses and milk and honey. Let's look at the heavyweight championship of the UFC, right? the last 2 years or 3 years with the Francis Ngannou, Dana White has made a pig's ear of it, right? He lost his heavyweight championship, his champion, right? Who then crossed over to boxing and arguably beat the boxing champion of boxing in his first fight, which is an absolute disaster for Dana, right? Obviously, subsequently, he got shown up by Anthony Joshua. Why do I mention it? Because what has happened is that he's now got another champion, a guy called John Jones, who didn't really want to move up to heavyweight to the heavyweight division because he didn't want to fight Francis Ngannou. And what's happened now is John Jones has become the champion, and you've now got a different interim champion, a guy called Tom Aspinall, which I'm sure you know, trains the Furies and that, who's
I
a
know Andy
brilliant
Aspinall,
fight.
but I know Andy Aspinall and Tom Aspinall. I've met him.
Yeah,
I've got a very close friend who is very, very, very close friends with Andy Aspinall. My friend Frank Smith. Speak, the lovely people, Aspinall family, very, very nice
yeah,
people.
you could see from Tom's um, YouTube channel what a nice guy he is. And Dana White hasn't got the fight over the line where John Jones, the champion, fights the interim champion. So what I'm saying is that Dana White hasn't, as you said, 100% got it locked down, right? And not only that, John Jones has had three or four, he's like the Dillian White. He's got three or four drug issues. He's, knocked over and pregnant women he's had car accidents with and all this stuff. But he hasn't done is got his champion in the ring or in the octagon rather with his interim champion. So you're absolutely right. Number two, where you say they're going to have it more difficult in boxing, I agree with that as well. And I think it was Bob Arum that said, the beaches of boxing are filled with the bleached bones of all those guys who are going to take it over, right? And Bob Arum's right. Boxing is a very, very different animal. And in my opinion, what Dana White was doing is he had the right inserts for the right holes with UFC. With boxing, it has been such a fractured business and it's been populated with some of the biggest crooks and criminals. Let's have it right, Porky. You had people like Don King who had, killed two people and and he's still in boxing now. He's been in boxing since the 70s, isn't it? His first fight he
Two
did
people he
with
killed, didn't he?
yeah, the first fight he did was ironically
1971, a charity match with Ali.
yeah, yeah, 1971, the charity match, so the charity didn't get anything. And the first professional fight he did was Ali Foreman, the Rumble in the Jungle, right? When he got Ali and Fraser
No,
five
no,
million
no. He
each.
did. He did. Joe Fraser and Foreman in Jamaica, didn't he?
I don't think he did, but
Oh
I
no!
might
Well,
have to.
I could have sworn he did because he turned up in a limo with Fraser and left with Foreman. I read in a book, unless he was just
Yeah, that's
an
correct.
advisor.
Yeah, I think he was an advisor, but the first one as a promoter because he famously got
Yeah, he
the
went to
president of
Mabutu, didn't he?
correct, and he
No, he
got them to
went
pay
to
them.
Ali and Foreman, and he said, "I've actually spoke about this with Don Majeski. I've got a photograph here in
Right.
a restaurant in Bulgaria with Mimi Hennessy and Dennis. Don Majeski worked on that fight, a blonde-haired guy. He's a proper WBC guy, and he said that King went to Foreman. Will you fight Ali for 5 million? He said yes, please. He went to Ali. Will you fight Foreman for 5 million? He said yes, please. But he then needed the 10 million.
Yep. Went off
So
to Africa and got the guy to do it and put on the Rumble in the Jungle and James Brown was involved. Listen, he was a master, right? But what a shady character. Then if we go further back, we look at the people that were controlling Sonny Liston. You look how shady that was, right? Let's then reverse and come back to the early 2020 and sorry 2018 2017 18 19 and what do we have? We've got the Kinahans turning up in boxing. Are you telling me a sport that is thriving and is really at the top of its game would allow people like the Kinahans in through the back door where, people like, Bob Arum wasn't being told exactly who he is and what he's doing and all kinds of nonsense. The reason that level of chicanery happens in boxing is because it's dodgy. That's why, right? And when you decide to clean up a dodgy sport, which is effectively what Dana, Turkey, et al. Are trying to do, you better have enough disinfectant and because as you're saying, I think you and I agree, the shithousery and the nonsense that goes on may be a little bit more than even they think is going on, right? Because that's what I think. Look at the heavyweight situation now, right? We got Dubois suddenly just pulled out. And earlier I said, right, well, let's see if he's got this virus or whatever, because all you need to do in the cold light of day, you just reschedule the fight, right, Porky? That's not happened.
Yeah,
All of a sudden, he's going straight to Usyk. All of a sudden now, the WBO, who are meant to be Warren's best buddies, have said, well, we're going to make, we're going to order the Parker Usyk fight. Now, is that a power play from them? Because I'm not sure. Have they got a new president of the WBO or something? I don't know. But either way, as a boxing fan, I prefer to see Parker Usyk because it's a new fight. We've already seen the Dubois Usyk, and we didn't see it that long ago. We knew how it went. But what you then have, because somebody pulling out 2 days before, is a whole load of nonsense, and it all depends on Usyk. Does he retire? Does he give up the WBO belt and fight Dubois for the IBF? Or does he forget Dubois and go with the WBO? And that situation is dependent on how the rest of the heavyweight division maps out. Because as soon as Usyk makes that decision, everything else follows forward from there. Come on, Porky. Let's use the French word. It's an effing mess, isn't it? And all
yeah.
because somebody has pulled out for what has got to be very spurious reasons because it hasn't been explained with any kind of transparency or facts to back it up, right? That's boxing, right? Can I touch on something else that Lou DiBella said? He was saying all these trinket belt issuers and everything else. He says you see in boxing all the corrupt decisions and everything else. And Hawani said, is that what happened to Roach and the tank fight? And Lou DiBella was very nice about it, saying, "Well, Wills isn't a corrupt guy." Well, I'm going to go further than what DiBella says. He is corrupt. I'll tell you why. In the ring before the announcement, Tank was telling Roach that he hasn't got the decision. How can that be if we're watching a sporting event? How can that be? That is because he understands that he is the massive A side for the sanctioning bodies, and they're not, if they've got the choice, going to have a decision against him, right? Simply because all the checks that he's cutting them is greatly reduced with a lesser known fighter, right? It's just a dilution of your product. That's what's happening. Right, that's what's happening, Paul. It's dilution of the product. But how does it get fixed? That is the $6 million question. I do not know how far they're going to get and what they're going to do. I do know they're going to be able to change it, but are they going to fix it or take it over? Ever since men have laced up gloves, I don't think you can really take it over 100%. I don't think so. You know, is
Don't
it going
you?
to be an amalgam of what they do in the UFC compared to what they do here now in boxing? Who knows? Right. But it's going to be a fun watch. We got to get the popcorn out. Oh, Porky.
I want to see good fights, right? And I don't want to see constant media attention on these fucking promoters.
And
What happened
trainers.
to promoters that were in the background?
Yeah, look at my hero, the great, marvelous Marvin Hagler. How many people knew about the Petronelli brothers in the background? How many? They, I remember a very famous one when he was coming in to fight. I think it was Hearns at Las Vegas, right? And Hearns had an entourage that was about 30 or 40 strong people. And then into the casino, Hagler with the two Petronelli brothers just walks in. That was it. You know, Porky, I've always said on your channel, it's a business first. And once you understand it's a business first and their special interests, you understand the decisions. The Daniel Dubois decision, I'm convinced 1,000,000% was a business decision, right? And much lower down the pecking order is the sporting integrity of what we're watching. It's just as simple as that. And hopefully, what Dana and Turkey are trying to do elevates the sporting integrity, right? And by sporting integrity, it means less corrupt judging. It means more competitive fights. It means good, transparent fighter pay, right? Hopefully, we get that, right? If we get that with the right fights, both you and I will be happy, I'm sure. Has it ever happened? No.
Listen,
Oh
mate,
dear.
you know these people, right, who are involved in boxing? They've all that wind took out of them now. Eddie Hills, he's trying to put a brave front on, right? They've had it off proper. Now, why is he in interviews bragging off about the other sports that his company, that his daddy gave him, the other sports that he does? He's supposed to be talking about boxing, so why does he have to fire back? Well, we've got snooker, we've got this, we've got that. Nobody cares about that. We care about boxing. Now that's him just coming out spitting fire because he's had his nose put out of joint.
You're
They
absolutely
thought,
correct.
listen to me, they thought they were on easy street. Turkey putting the shows up, giving them their fighters massive money, and them taking 20%, him and Bricktop, and not even having to put their hands in the pocket for them shows. They've had free gratis for what is it, 9, 10 shows, 11 shows? They've
Correct.
had free gratis. And now they pulled the plug on them. They're now, right, you have to put your own shows on now. Well, where does that leave them, doesn't it? It leaves them coming back to Blighty and all these kids up here, all these people who've been shunned and left because they thought, they've seen the promised land. They've got to come back now and crawl. They've got to grovel to all these UK fighters that never really got a slice of the Saudi cake. Now, will these managers and that all remember that? Because if I were a manager of any fighter now in UK, I'd be like, hey, you never give us a call then, did you, when you all thought you were having it off out there? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's symptomatic of the business environment that controls boxing, Porky, because it's every man for themselves. As I said, they're like they're all like a bunch of crack dealers who can't wait to shit on anything or anybody that they think they can get one over on. And in the end, right, it's a crabs in a bucket scenario. It doesn't promote the sport. And what they don't realize, this is like what as I said, these crack dealers don't realize, there's always going to be a demand for their product as long as they don't stamp on it so much. So, in terms of getting that product to their customers, they're not always going to have the best ideas. It will make sense for them to collaborate because because the collaboration and pooling your resources generally means you could give a better product to your consumers. And if you could give a better product to your consumers, you generally get them to consume more or you increase your customer base. And nobody in boxing thinks like that. You're absolutely correct, right? They have not only have Eddie Hills and Bricktop, you know, got big money for their fighters, they didn't even need to put on the shows, did they? What
No,
promotion did they need to do?
they didn't do any promotion. They didn't do
Yeah, it's
anything.
double
All they did
bubble.
was talk a bit of shit on IFL and all them other liquor channels. That's it. Well, that's what they do anyway. But there's no pressure on them. Everything was laid on for them. And they were thinking, what have we got here? Have we got a mug here?
Correct.
That's
That's
what
why
they were thinking. They'd have been going back to their hotel rooms that were probably bugged and talking about all the business and how, what they were going to do, this and that. That Turkey would have been listening in on everything. He controls everything out there. He'd have been earwigging on the lot of them and saying, what have we got here? These are proper takers. Takers. And you know what? When people take, eventually, what you do, you take them. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And what he
it,
what he did, he took them to cleaners and said, "Thank you, but
yeah,
no, thank you." We don't see Spencer Brown coming out now wanting to hold Turkey's hand and put his tongue up his arse hole, do you? They're all surplus to requirements. The masks slipped. Look at Big John Fury running around headbutting people and that. But when he went out there
yeah,
at the beginning, he was tiptoeing out there, one and he were Mr. Humble.
yeah. I'll paraphrase what you've just said, Porky. It's an old saying, isn't it? Pigs get fat, but hogs get slaughtered. And all that these boxing promoters and the people who have made money from the old school boxing, they're all prime hogs. And Turkey is the slaughterman. That's it. Now, what happens next is the next question. But I agree with you, right? I just sometimes is it a human frailty that when you can take advantage, you do? I don't know. It's like when I first came on here, Porgy, I couldn't understand the, the level of abuse that you get, and I just couldn't. I just thought,
Level of
what? Why
abuse.
are
My
people
God.
do? Yeah, yeah, but I couldn't get it because it's not me. Do you understand?
Mate,
And
listen,
often
mate.
you,
I sent them all an email. Out of all the emails the other day, I picked a couple of handfuls of them, and we sent them. And I saw what he'd sent, and they all were coming on. They were all sent the links, right? Like you'll get sent links, and none of them clicked on. All day we were at it. I was just writing scripts, me, and every half an hour I clicked on to the next one. I sent you all lists, didn't I? And not one of them clicked on, and that's what you get. It's all people who want, probably people in the boxing industry that want to hide behind a keyboard, keyboard warriors.
yeah, and what happens is that there are some people in boxing who are calling it as it is. Lou DiBella's doing it. You're doing it. Curtis Woodhouse is another one, right? There are a few other people out there. There are a number of other channels out there. Bob's channel's doing it. Andy Cavan's doing
I
it.
started it
And the
all
point
off though,
is,
mate. Me going after them
oh,
all. Me.
absolutely. Oh, absolutely. You're the 7 year veteran, and that's why I said, Porky, that sometimes I know that it gets to you, and it's my job to say on your feet, soldier, because at the end of the day, it is a breath of fresh air because there is a chance that something better comes out of it. Because as you know, what do you and I ultimately want, right? We want more competitive fights, fighters looked after, right? Transparency and less of the bullshit, right? If we can get those four things, mate, we've had a result, right? And it needs some kind of change. What I don't want to see is that we change boxing for something that is very detrimental to one or other of the participants, particularly the fighters. I think the UFC model is very good for Dana White and the UFC, but ultimately, and again, I agree with Paulie Malignaggi on this. It's very detrimental to the fighters because once they finish their USC career or at the end of it or whatever it is, when they try and get out of their contract, they all want to come to boxing. Even Conor McGregor, the biggest UFC star ever, where did he really make his money? He made his money in a boxing ring,
Boxing.
right? And that, in my opinion, is a damning indictment on greed. Yes, he's put organizations and everything else in it, but it's greed. Why should Dana White be sitting at you know, at a poker table or a blackjack table doing 500,000 a night
500,000
built
and
on the
Andy were
blood and
betting,
the
wasn't it?
guts. Sorry, on yeah, 500,000 a hand. Sorry, not 500,000 a night.
Half a
On
million
on that,
dollars and because didn't he come out at 2 million up in one of the hotels, Bellagio or something? When they were 2 million
yeah,
up, wasn't he?
yeah, and you know what they do, how they do it with whales? They either cut them off, so thank you very much, or what they do is they keep them playing because the odds are always stacked in their favour. Look, to me, that is outrageous when he's betting 500,000 a hand. When you've got his heavyweight champion that looks like who looks like Godzilla, getting 600 grand for a fight, it's outrageous. It's outrageous. It won't fall to that. And in my opinion, Turkey and Dana are smart enough to have a sensible medium, right? However, the shit show is that bad, Porky. It was inevitable that it was going to change, in my opinion. You know, the shit show was that bad, it's inevitable. And more power to you for actually, sticking at it for 7 years. In the beginning, right? You must have How did you feel? Because you must have been banging your head against a brick wall, and everybody's going, "Ah, no, no, Porgy, you're getting too many problems. Oh, this, that, the other." And now
Hmm.
look, we've had the day of reckoning when they brought the Trojan horse in, and all the troops are now taking over the city, right? However, it's going to be very interesting to see which route they go down, right? My opinion is that they're going to try and actually do a league, and they're going to try and attack parts of the Ali Act, right? If they can't do that, then what they're going to do is have a stronger partnership with the Ring magazine,
Some of it's a
right?
bit
And
dated, the
have,
Ali Act. It does need brushing up, but the general gist of it is to
yeah,
protect the fighters from people like your Don Kings and your other
and Dana
promoters,
White.
your Dana
And
Whites,
let's have
and
it right, the Dana Whites,
yeah.
you
Okay,
know.
well, we've got 8 minutes left. I just want to run through these. If you want to give me a quick
Sure.
25-second answer on each one of them. Oscar De La
Yeah.
Hoya, Team Turkey or not?
No. I don't think he will be Team Turkey. No. He's criticised him, hasn't he? But Oscar De La Hoya makes too much money from the nonsense that goes on now, isn't it? So he's an old school guy, as I'd say. He
Okay.
likes the shit show as it is.
Eddie Hills, Team Turkey or not?
No. Eddie Hills has come out and said, look, I've got a great business. I'm the best promoter in the world. And he's got an ego,
Yeah.
right? He's not going to want to play second or third fiddle.
Bricktop, Team Turkey or not?
Bricktop is the one who I think is reeling the most. However, he's the one who's got the biggest survival.
He's
I
stayed
don't think
quiet
he
though
is
so
Team
far,
Turkey.
hasn't
Correct. Here's what I do think, right? It gives all the three that you've just mentioned a real good reason to start being nice to each other.
he? Yeah, yeah. Well, they're all going to team up, aren't they? You can see what's going to happen, can't you? And go after
Yeah,
Dana
they're
and
going to have to.
Turkey. They've got no choice. They're going to have to join forces.
Correct.
Okay. Would you put top ranking with all them lot team? Top rank and Bricktop, Hills and
Yeah.
Oscar will swallow each other off, and they'll all go all team
Yeah.
up, won't they? Yeah. Okay.
I'll agree with you because the biggest problem with Top Rank is that they don't have a perfect successor for Bob Arum, isn't it? Because
Yeah. No
he's a
front man,
fossil
have
now.
they?
No,
Okay.
and that's weakness there. It's been a fascinating chat, Porky. Really, really,
Okay. Well,
really
we're nearly done
interesting.
yet. Hang on, we're not
How
done
the
yet.
how the business of boxing,
Oh yeah. Joyce Ergovic. What do you think? Good fight or not?
right?
Think it's a good fight?
It's a better fight. It was a better fight than the Dillian White fight.
Okay.
Yeah, apparently it's been signed. I think it's a good fight, and I think, unfortunately, I don't think Joyce wins that fight. I think that's his death knell, and I think that Bricktop's cashing him out.
Yeah. WBO have ordered Usyk Parker. Do you think Bricktop's pulling moves behind the scenes to free up that belt, knowing Usyk's going to fight Jabbar, and then he can stick a Tome in with Parker for the WBO belt and have a young champion?
Couldn't have put it better myself because, as you know, the WBO and Bricktop for the last 20 years have been synonymous as one or the other, isn't it? Absolutely is
Since he
pulling
had
strings
Calzaghe in
behind the belt.
'97, they've been stuck up each other, haven't they?
Correct. And I think they believe that Usyk will want the Dubois fight simply because you know what Usyk's like. He wants to shut down all that noise about the low blow once and for all. And if Usyk wanted to choose, I reckon that he would choose Dubois over Parker, even though all of us want to see the Parker fight. So I reckon that it is a move, and that's why the WBO have
Yeah.
done that.
Carl
Again,
Froch
murky
say,
boxing politics.
yeah, Carl Froch says he wants to see Usyk Dubois rematch, but he said there were no need for a rematch when they had the first fight. I agree there isn't because why does Usyk have to beat everybody twice? But now the Cobra's saying he wants to see that rematch. So what do you think?
Carl, Carl, Carl. Oh, do you know what?
Has he been got at?
Yes, 1,000, 20,000%. Been got at 20,000%. I know you're funny, Porky. Here's what I'd say quickly. If you look at his average views before the Whittaker fight, the previous 15 videos, and just, add up all the views, divide them by the 15,
Uh,
and then after the Turkey fight, do the next 15 videos, add up all those views, divide them by 15. I reckon he's lost a percentage of viewership simply because everybody thought it was something different. And in my opinion, he's been got at. And the reason I say that is that he's going with a narrative. And the point is that you only go with a narrative if the current situation suits your pocketbook. Right? You love boxing. DeBella loves boxing. I love boxing. Bob in Canada loves boxing. Right? Curtis Woodhouse loves boxing. And we all want to see the same thing: competitive fights, transparency, and more looking after the fighters. None of the bullshit. Right? Everybody else who doesn't say that is happy with how things are because they're getting they're getting looked after.
okay. Conor Ben, Crusher Ben, and Junior Eubank are on Piers Morgan tonight. Will you be watching?
I didn't know that. I probably will. Oh, God.
They've got security in
Prob
front of them. Ben's gone after him, hasn't he? Do you think the 100 grand
oh,
fine were harsh?
he's not going to pay it, is he? Because the
No.
promoters will be falling over themselves to pay that, given
Dominic
the
Ingle
level of
thinks it's in
publicity.
order, the fine. Who's he to start talking about fine? Did he get a fine for three fighters failing dope test on his watch?
I knew
Hey,
you were going to go
Dominic
there.
Ingle, who is on the area council
Flex.
with a border control. How can that be? How is he on the area council? Him? I know his mum and
Again,
dad, but why is he when he's had dopers fail on his watch? How can that be?
it's all the mess that is boxing. And as I said, I hope they've got enough antiseptic to clean it all up.
Keep them petrol receipts going in, Dominic. Hey, unbelievable. And that free car from BYD. Go on, lad. Takers, eh? Go and get a proper job. Stop going on about diets and all that. We all know how you got to look like you did. Well, that's about it. We're out of time. So
Yeah.
thanks for coming
Nice.
on, Anthony. It's been a real tonic to have you on. You're a good addition to the commission.
Oh, I thank you very much. But at the end of the day, your commission was always very strong, right?
Yeah,
It's just that you didn't believe it as much as I think you're believing it now. That's my
yeah.
opinion.
Okay.
All right. It's a very strong commission. Keep it going. And at the end of the day, let's get the popcorn out and watch what's going on because the sport is broken. It does need changing. And when you've got people like Eddie Hill saying it's not broken and Jug Ears Oliver saying it's not broken, you just think, yeah, we know why you're saying that, don't you? It's outrageous. It has to change, but will it change for the better? That's the million
Let's
dollar
hope
question.
so. Okay. Well, listen, you take care and have a great evening.
You too, Porky. Thank you very much
Cheers,
for having me
mate.
on.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Well, that was Anthony from Mexico. Women love him, men want to be him. A fantastic interview, a good two-parter there for you, an hour and 20 minutes. I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you leave a comment and let me know what you think and share the video on your social medias, your WhatsApp. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and show a little bit of respect to the pork. All right, because we tell it straight on here and there's a lot of effort goes in here. All right, Go on, peace out. Everybody have a great weekend. I'm off to watch the Roaring Twenties with James Cagney on DVD. Go on, pop, pop, bang! And eat this lasagna, drink this glass of rosé that I've been looking at all day.